Hello everyone, welcome back to the Beginner's Guide to Jungle. Now, in this particular episode I'm going to be talking much more specifically about ganking, my kind of general guidelines that I use when I'm deciding on whether or not to gank a lane. But the previous episode, the sample match, I recorded and uploaded that primarily to showcase how very inconsistent jungling is. And I wanted that uploaded and there for people to compare to this episode, because I'm going to be much more specific with this. In the last episode, I talked a little bit about why I wasn't ganking, but I really didn't go into any specifics, which I'm going to do in this episode. But you're going to see me behave a lot differently. I'm a different character. It's a completely different match. Past hitting mid lane, I'm not even sure how or where I'm going to wind up. It depends on the enemy jungler. It depends on such things as the needs of the lanes. Maybe one lane is doing really well and the others aren't, and that makes a difference in how you treat the lanes, things of that nature. So, your jungling gameplay is never going to be the same twice. I mentioned this at the end of the previous episode, but it is worth repeating here again. Just to kind of clarify that once more. If you like consistency, this is not the role for you. Alright, who's likely my laning opponent? Probably Hunbots. A lot of people have been taking Loki into either the support or the solo role. Whichever one he isn't, Ardia will be. Olorun mid, Apollo ADC. Pretty sure Hunbots is going to be jungle. What that means is that with my ult and with my second ability, which gives me a move speed buff, I'm going to be able to outpace Hunbots and probably gank more consistently than him. So I'm going to have to try to use that to my advantage. Because if I don't, he'll hit so much harder in team fights unless I'm very careful, because he's got a better team fight ult than I do. I don't have much ability to hit multiple targets with my ult, but his is much bigger and can do so. And he has got probably slightly better crowd control on that as well. Let me see. We're going to go with this. Boomba's Dagger. And we're going to run to Jotun's. Now, in the interim between the episodes here, we're actually going to get some wards here, because Thanatos does not honestly need mana potions. In the interim between the previous episode and this episode, the jungle opening has changed. This is actually why I did not upload yesterday. I wanted to experiment with the new start. The new start is starting at speed still, that's the same, but instead of going towards the right harpies here, you ignore these, you go straight to the left and you go straight to lane. This gets you to level 2 and you get to lane slightly faster. I did do some experiments yesterday with still going to the right harpies and then moving on, but I was too slow. Mids generally die when you do that now, so it is worth mentioning that the opening move has changed slightly. Now, I took the Death Scythe because I want to be able to hit the main minion with the Death Scythe. I have the AoE sweep on my third hit of the chain. This is more of a specifically Thanatos thing rather than a jungler thing in general. And that's how clean that can be. Alright. I would have preferred that to be ever so slightly faster, but that's okay. And then sweep, there we go. Grab the silence, and let's see how fast we were compared to the enemy jungler. Decently faster. Oh, I even got the poke, nice. I don't have much I can do here at range. Is this up? We should really... Okay, we're gonna not go for that. I know I hear heartbeats. Checking the right lane, that's not really in trouble. Checking the left lane, that's definitely not in trouble. Right now, neither of the lanes need me, so that's pretty encouraging. So I don't need to worry about them at this point in time. That's Ardio? Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure where they are. Alright. I still don't have anything I need to do with Artio. She's so close to under tower that... Never mind. Oh, they took each other out. Okay, that's fine. Excellent. Now I get my speed boost. I'm going to come over here for this gank in the hopes that I can do something useful here. Shoot. There we go. That's all we needed. Okay, now I'm going to return to mid because I don't know what Olorin's up to. They don't need me for the purple. This actually might be up really quick. It is up. He's not interested in this. Alright. Bye. That's pretty hot. I'm going to hurry up and help her with this, so I'm going to go ahead and use that blink. I missed that a little bit, but that's fine. I'm going to go ahead and clear this out. Oh, you survived. Alright. So far, nothing particularly happening in any area. Well, right lane is having a problem. I'm not going to make it in time for that, am I? No. She's going to back before I can even get there. Yeah, there's no way I'm reaching that in time.
An enemy has been slain.
Alright, but she definitely had to back, so he's... Considering how quickly he respawned, it's not a huge problem. I really need to hurry up and get my ult, though. There's some bots over there for some reason. He shouldn't be there. Missed that somehow. Alright. There we go. Alright, so now that I have my ults, I'm actually in a pretty good position to start ganking pretty seriously here. I don't want to gank Olorin at this time. There's you. You're probably going to push me pretty hard on this. You thought about it. Alright. I'm not sure why he bothered hiding in there. That was very silly. Oh.
Eliminations.
Alright. Defend this lane briefly. There we go. Alright, they don't need me over here anymore at this point in time. Let me see if I can grab this Oracle. Is it up? It is up. Okay. Olorin's right there, tangling with Neith. I can see Tsukiyomi not needing any help right now. I can see from this angle here. Okay, she got rid of him. That's good. I'm gonna go ahead and put a ward down here. If she'd hit that, that would have been spicy. Alright, I completely whiffed my own, so that's fine. I don't need to be here right now. I don't know why I also used that second potion. I didn't need to. She's probably looking to split this with me, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that. There we go. I mean, she's support. She needs a little bit of help with farming, so it's not really a problem here. There we go. Looks like Athena should be okay. Yeah, she got under tower. She's fine. Okay. Hello? It's not exactly the time to be doing the harpy. You're going to be fine right now. For now, at least. Where is... Oh, there's Lauren. Okay. Well, right now I'm looking at this damaged camp because Neith just took the mid-harpies, which is fine. Oh, they just warded this. Alright. Alright.
We must fight for survival. Do not give up.
Not today, Zerg. Where is Ulrin? Did Ulrin engage at all? No. Alright. Now, that was a bad counter gank by them. Well, I wouldn't even call it a counter gank. That was a bad steal attempt. Because we had Athena. Oh, that's huge. Did he ult out? Yeah, he did. Shoot. Shoot. Nope. I shouldn't have been here. Yeah. That was a mistake on my part. I got really greedy. I forgot that Loki had probably... I should have been up by that time, and there he was. Let me see. We're going to go for Hydra's Lament next. We're going to buy some more wards. Assessing the situation, it doesn't look like he necessarily needs the help. She's really low on mana, so I'm not really that concerned. Until Loki shows up, of course. Of course. Naturally. 3? There was only 2 there. Alright. I'm going to go over and check his mana really quick, make sure they're not stealing that. They are. He successfully stole that. I can't... There's no way. Okay. Well, I could catch up to him, in all honesty. I just don't have any need to. There's nothing I can do with that. Now I'm looking at that damage camp. Hold on. Good old... Did you just whiff your old Hunbots? Oh, no, you were using it underneath. No, you're not getting away from me. Since you're low enough on health, you can't get away. Nice. Where's Apollo? Did he bail? I think he bailed. Yeah, he bailed. Alright. Alright. Let's go over here and gank this, because I'm not really sure what's going on over here. I know he's spotted there. Just grab him, just taunt him. Clean. Alright. Can we steal this? Yeah. Easy. Oh, I missed that. If I hadn't missed that auto attack, I would have killed him. Ah, can't believe I missed that. That's okay though. My next move is probably should be Serrated Edge for the bit of lifesteal, but mostly for the penetration. Do I really need that now though? That's a good question. Bloodforge would be a nice spike in power. Which probably actually, what I really should be doing is splashing in some mild protections here. I might go with Shifter's Shield. Just to give myself a little bit of an edge when I'm low on health. Give me an opportunity to come back. Get a Death Scythe in. Oh, she was just getting out of the situation. Alright. Fair enough. That was good use of her ult to get out. Alright. I didn't realize Zeus was in danger, but I probably would not have made it anyways. That's one problem with jungling. I mentioned this in the previous episode, I believe, but you're not going to be able to do everything you want to do There is going to be times where you just aren't going to be able to get to that. I couldn't have made it to save Zeus even if I wanted to. It just wasn't going to happen. I have no idea what Nitha's doing. I think she's farming the back area, or she's going left. I'm not sure. I don't know where Olerin is, which is concerning. There's Loki.
One less opponent that can stop us. Threat eliminated.
Not even a problem. Olerin's going to be an issue at this point, though. He's been farming pretty aggressively during this time. It looks like, yeah, they're going to get that tower. There's nothing we can do about that. However, he is in a good ganking position because he is halfway up there. No, he's got Hunbots with him. Hunbots is just going to ult him out of that situation. That's not what I want right there. I never actually covered the ground rules for ganking. You may have picked up on them, maybe not. Right now with the current meta, one of the big things is farming. You want to try your best to be ahead of the enemy. I've gotten some great ganks. I have 7 kills. You may have picked up on what my criteria are, but basically, I'm looking for the enemy to be under half health, ideally, and ideally on our half of the field. If they're not past halfway up, it is much less likely that you will get a successful kill unless they are very low on health. This is particularly true for Thanatos, who can get away with a lot more, obviously, because of his ult and his passive. But it's just more obvious with Thanatos, and that's why I picked him for this particular episode. My criteria are much more easily visible with Thanatos than with any other character. Just like that. It doesn't really matter. For a lot of others, say, for example, Robin really needs to have the enemy on his half of the field because it's much harder to keep, you know, to kill somebody if they're not on your half of the field. It really depends on the assassin how far away they need to be. But my usual general rule is my half. For a brief second, I was concerned Loki was going to be able to steal that, but he's their support, so... Grab this. Now notice that because of my ganking, I've been able to stay pretty far ahead of Hunbots. Now the reason why is because Hunbots' ganking ability and his jungling ability aren't as good as Thanatos'. He excels in the late game with the team fights. That's where he does better than Thanatos in a lot of situations. I move faster so I can farm faster than he can. Straight up. It's just how speed works. This is why it's important to be a fast enough character in the jungling lane. Now, for example, right there, they're retreating right now. If they had gotten attacked right there, that was not a counter. See, they're going to get attacked right there. And there's not really anything I'm going to be able to do here. Zeus got back. Athena ulted back. Okay, they barely made it out, but I wouldn't have been able to make it over there in time, and even if I could make it over there in time, it still wouldn't be a good gank, because that would be a 4v3. So that would be a terrible counter gank for me. I would just be going in there to die. So even if they got ganked, that's not a scenario for a counter gank. If it had just been Hunbots, that possibly, yeah, I could have counter ganked, because that would have been a 3v3 there. Oh, nice. I guess I just wasted my ult, but I guess that's fine. I should probably go back, honestly. No, wait, I can see Loki harassing Zeus, which means, yep, there's Apollo. I kind of figured. Alright, let's see if I can make this in time. If only I had my ult. Do they have wards down? Whoa, Zeus, please send backup. Wow, he barely saved my life. That was close. That almost went really south really quickly. Because Zeus was not as close as I was hoping he'd be. We'll go for Ansley as well, because I want that cooldown. We'll go for also Aegis. Now that's Hunbat's almost dead in mid. I can't really catch up there. Looks like I might be able to get something done with Olorin. If Athena can lock him down for long enough. Well, Nanith is there. She's going to kill him. There we go. So I'm going to go ahead and clear this. Now, the big thing here is I actually lost track of my train of thought earlier. But my main point with Thanatos was, whenever you're jungling against somebody who ganks better than you, Thor, Thanatos, those are the two big examples that I can think of off the top of my head. Whenever you're jungling against one of these people, usually you give up on trying to outgank them and you just focus on farming the jungle instead. Thanatos presents an interesting problem with this, though, for anyone not fast enough, because he's fast enough to still keep up with the farm while ganking people. See, this is a good gank because he's about halfway. He hasn't got much health. Now, the Zeus is doing really well as an ADC. He actually really knows what he's doing, and I appreciate that. I think he's not played as an ADC often enough, to be perfectly honest. I need to head over to right lane, because it looks like they're getting their rear ends kicked. So let's go see if we can do something about this. I see that RTO is... Oh yeah, this is going to develop into an ugly situation. I'm glad I came over here, because here's Loki here, being a pain. You want some of this? Didn't think so. Ah, that was a complete whiff. Oh shoot, I'm gonna die. No! That's alright, that's alright. Alright, so we got some decent protections. I still want serrated edge because it's going to give me some really nice penetration. Alright, so we're soon going to be coming upon the point at which we're switching out of jungling and going into the team fights. Now, I mentioned this in the last episode. Your priority as a jungler is to focus on the enemy damage dealers. In this case, that's Hunbots if I can get at him, which is tricky because he's going to be prioritizing our damage dealers, which is going to be the other two, the ADC and the mage. So these are going to be my priorities when I'm going into a team fight. I'm going to want to single them out and kill them very quickly. That is my goal. If I accomplish nothing else, even if I die after killing the ADC and the mage, I win. If I take one of them with me, it's worth it. But generally speaking, ideally, I take both out. So we'll have to see if we can get that to work. But right now I'm in a pretty good position. I've got a good score. I'm pretty decently ahead of my opposition. I'm about to hit level 20 pretty soon, overall. There's another fight going on in the left there, so I want to see what's popping over with that. The fact that Loki's over there indicates that they're trying... Yep, there it is. Is that a 3-man? I don't have time to deal with Olorin right now. I gotta go save lives. Never mind. Oh, he completely bailed. Uh-oh. That's trouble. Okay. Alright. I gotta go heal off of... Shoot. Phew. Alright. Olorin's looking low. Shoot. Not enough. So close. Yeah, he got him. He can probably kill Artio here, too. He's focusing on Loki for some reason. That was a really good stun. Okay, good. He took care of him. I was trying to get something to in the jungle to heal off of. Nice. That was a good play, good play. Alright. So, now we're gonna go ahead and keep farming. That was a good fight for him, bots. He caught up to me a little bit there. But that's okay. Alright. Just gotta keep ahead of him. Okay. There's some bots there with Neath. She did not engage. She could have engaged if she wanted to. That probably would have worked out fine. There's Loki. I know when bots is around. There's 3 of them in mid, huh? Okay. What's the actual situation here? Don't want to attack the Gold Fury because the enemies will probably do something with that. Oh. Nice.
If only they accepted us, we could have saved them.
No. How did he get away out of the... Okay. That was a little interesting. I didn't throw my... I have no idea how I missed my Death Scythe in that situation. That was fairly interesting. Did he beads? He might have beadsed it. I'm pretty sure he used beads to get out of that a little early, which would explain his reaction time. Alright, there's Apollo, but I don't really want to go into that because they're all alive. So that's just death waiting to happen there. Alright. Is he still over there? Interesting. He just healed up off of something. Finally level 20. Are you pinging Neath? Okay, so there's somebody there. I don't want to engage. That's what I've been forgetting to use, my wards.
An ally has been slain. An enemy has been slain.
I don't know why Egg is there. I don't know why I'm chasing Loki. There's some bots. There's a whole bunch of people there, actually. Okay, got some damage on him, which is all I really want to do because that prevents him from re-engaging. No idea where he's going now. Yo! Bots is totally gonna kill me. Uh-oh. Ah! They did re-engage. They went off and healed. Interesting. We overstayed our fight. We badly overstayed on that one.
Remember them. Such potential wasted.
Maybe that's not... Oh, I could go for anti-heal, yeah. Let me see. I guess it doesn't make a huge difference. Alright, so. Still doing okay. Almost. Also, keep in mind that I almost prioritized Loki over Hunbots. Hunbot still got away, which was because I couldn't quite find him again. But I stopped the engage on Loki because, frankly, I didn't need to kill Loki. He's the support. He doesn't really hit that hard. I know he's got Brawler Speed Stick and his ult can slap, but overall his damage output is not high enough where I need to be prioritizing him as a jungler. So it's just not something particularly necessary, in my opinion. I want some cash money. There we go. I'm going to back up a little bit here. I don't want to back in the middle of that lane for no reason. This should be good enough. I want to go back and get my Boomba's Spear for more penetration, some good power. There we go. 300 power, 310 power. It's a good time. We're all grouping up finally. Okay. Yeah, there they are. I'll go join Zeus over here. Who is that, Apollo and Ulrin? Yeah. Yeah, that's not the fight we want right now. I don't want to be here. I want to be around this way. He's almost dead. Why is Neith fighting Artio? Soloing Artio. Cradling. What is this? She's about to die to Apollo. She killed Artio, which is very impressive. She somehow also killed... I don't know how that worked, but okay. Shoot. Nice. Excellent. Thank you. Alright. She's right. A lot of people... No. Middle tower first. The reason why we want to attack the middle tower is because we can fall back to the Gold Fury afterwards. It is way easier to deal with that way. Alright. I'm on it, I'm on it. I missed that, but that's fine. Ooh. We do not want this fight. I'm gonna just massively heal off of this, it's fine. I actually might be able to re-engage. Where are you going? You completely whiffed that one, son. I don't even know what he was thinking there. That had bad decision written all over it. Come on, it's Thanatos. You have to be careful with Apollo's. This is just a random aside, but you have to be careful with Apollo's ult. If the enemy is faster than normal, like Thanatos, Mercury, pretty much anyone who can boost their movement speed, you're gonna have a rough time hitting that ult. I don't want to engage Loki. I guess we will with... Nope. Here he goes. Alright. I'm gonna drop this damage camp just so I can maintain my buff. Oh, hold on. pop on over here. Grab my... No, I guess I don't need my speed buff because I have my damage buff right now. Okay. Should have a good stun. Alright. Nope. I'm not getting ulted by you, Oleron. Thank you. Oh, shoot. I needed that. They just stole my healing. Ooh. Feels bad, man.
Has been slain. Elimination. Where did they all go?
That Hunbot's dying right before my ult ended. Well, right before my ult landed on him was truly unfortunate. I thought he was going to survive because he was in Oleron's ult, so I thought I had the time to land on him, but I did not. No, we didn't lose from this. We got time to come back. They'll probably take one of the Phoenixes, but I don't think they're going to have enough time to necessarily wipe the whole thing. Well, they have minions. Well, this was a loss, but that's okay. I'm going to go ahead and upload this anyways. Primarily because, as you could see from the way this match went, compared to the last one especially, it's very random how jungling matches go. I accomplished what I wanted to as a jungler, which was get the ganks that I needed to get. Well, most of the ganks. There were a couple of times where if I'd been more foresightful, I could have probably reacted a little bit earlier and gotten some counter ganks. But this was really a showcase of primarily what you want to do ganking-wise. I did talk a little bit about the late game, but frankly, beyond just trying to target the enemy squishies, which would be the mage and the hunter, my mistake in that last fight was attacking Ardio, revealing myself at that point. I should have waited for Oleron or Apollo to show up to the fight and then take them out really quick, because Oleron was right there. If I had just waited for the Oleron to use his ult and then just attack him at that point, that would have been a much better idea. So that was my mistake there. You have to resist that temptation to attack the first person that your team is going on to, because you are really intended to be going for the enemy damage, and Ardia was not that. She was the solo. She went in like she was supposed to. I fell for it, and I died. That's just how it goes. But that's exactly why you as a jungler don't want to engage on the enemy solo, on the enemy support, whoever. That's why. That is a prime example of why. But yeah, just to recap ganking, generally speaking, and I used Thanatos to exemplify how much you can get away with the right jungler. Pardon me, the lobby chat distracted me. Usually for most assassins, I'm actually going to bring up the assassins here to kind of indicate how far up or how much time they really need, because Thanatos clearly doesn't need that much space to kill someone if you time it correctly, but you're really looking at the enemy being under half health, or you're looking at them being past halfway up the lane. The farther up the lane they are, the more health you can probably get away with. Again, it also depends on the assassin. Thanatos and Thor have really great ganking ability. Thor, because of, well, both of them from their huge distance. Thanatos obviously kills people instantly under a certain level of health. Thor doesn't quite have that. He still wants to have the enemy past halfway, but pretty much if you can gank someone halfway into your lane, right past the halfway point, that's great. He can probably get the kill. The only exception would be a fed solo lane. I would say would be the only times I've had a rough time ganking somebody with Thor, even if they're at our tower line. Most of the rest of these people really want the enemy to be about half health and to be past halfway up, because Raven doesn't have any kind of instant kill. He's not got huge... He doesn't have as good of a gank as Thanatos or Thor does. Ratatoskir does. But the really interesting trick with Raven, though, is he's got more crowd control than a lot of other Well, more move speed affecting crowd control. He's got a root and a slow. Thor, as great as his gank is, only has a stun. Thanatos has the stun silence on his ult, and he's got a slow on his death scythe, but Robin's slow is easier to hit because it's a wave, even if it's not ranged. And his root is obviously more consistently up than Thanatos' ult is. Ratatoskr only has a stun, so he's got some leeway. He is basically in the same boat as Thor. As long as they're past halfway up, you probably can kill them even if they've got more than the usual amount of health. Nemesis only has a slow. She's got a really rough time ganking people over half health. I don't care how far up the lane they are. If they aren't already pretty low on health, you're probably not going to necessarily get your fatal gank. Now, again, going back to last episode, you don't need to kill them for an effective gank. Nemesis is really good at wearing down an opponent so they have to fall back. Nemesis is great at this, but her actual ability to kill someone in a gank is a bit problematic because she doesn't have a whole lot of ways of keeping them on your half of the lane, so she really does need them to be lower on health, because if they have more than half their health, a lot of the times she can't stop them from getting back to their own tower. Now, the exception to this is if your laning allies have some form of excellent crowd control, and usually this is going to be the solo lane if it's going to be anyone. The dual lane early on is going to have the support there, obviously. But Nemesis works really well if you are in communication with one of your lanes, because they can actually coordinate their crowd control for you. Naja's interesting where, with his ult up and using his armillary sash, and he's got the slow from the ring, he can really gank squishy people, the enemy mid, the enemy ADC, from pretty much anywhere in their lane. Those two roles specifically, gone. But anyone tankier, support, possibly the enemy assassin, depending on how they're building, the enemy solo, you're going to have a really rough time ganking them to a fatal degree if they're not either halfway past the lane or they're halfway dead. It's a really weird juxtaposition here with Naja, where it's somewhat conditional as to how much room he needs. And you would think that this would follow through with a lot of other assassins, but most hunters have some way of getting away from you. Apollo, for instance, to take that last match, has his Sing. You've got Neith with her root and her backflip. So a lot of assassins still want even an ADC victim or a mid victim, they still want them to be past halfway up the lane, usually. Because most of these enemies do have a form of escape and a form of crowd control. Naja's sash, you just pop out of the jungle when they're not paying attention, sash in, ult, and as long as they don't have beads, you've basically just killed them, right? As long as you're not so far behind that you can't do enough damage in your ult to either kill them or put them in a position to be killed right afterwards, you're fine. Arachne has the same problem, really, as Nemesis. She doesn't have a really easy way. Actually, I would put her more on par with Ratatoskr. He's got a slow and a stun. She's got a slow and a stun. The difference here is that her slow is ranged, and her stun is melee, and Ratatoskr has a quasi-ranged stun and a melee slow. It's very odd, but she basically is like a less ganky Ratatoskr. She's got better jungle. Well, technically, she's got better jungle clear. I disagree with that personally. I think Ratatoskr has better jungle clear in the mid-game. Early on, she's probably a little bit better at clearing jungles. If you use her webs really well, then that gives her a huge advantage, but that requires its own series. I'm really not going to talk about that too much here. Bakasura's been in a really rough spot for a long time. He doesn't have any kind of crowd control other than the silence on his ult. He's fast. He can keep up with most of the other assassins, and he can even outpace anyone except Thanatos and Mercury, in all honesty, to some extent. And probably Ratatoskr can outpace him, actually, just through sheer consistency. Because every time he eats a minion, he moves faster for a few... I think it's 5 seconds. It might be 7. I can't quite remember. What is actually... How long do you get a speed boost when you eat people? Healing himself and getting a protections buff. You no longer... I thought you got a move speed boost. Did they remove that? Anyways, Cleona, I haven't personally played, so I'm not going to talk about her at all. I have not played her clearly, as you can see. I just played her in the jungle training, but I have not actually used her in a conquest. Camazotz is a really interesting conversation in terms of assassins, because he doesn't gank super well. He doesn't have the cool long-range ults like Thanatos or Thor. He doesn't have a really sweet combo like Naja. He doesn't have a devastating protection drop like Nemesis does. He doesn't even have a cool passive that really can help eliminate a target quickly like Arachne. That is something I want to mention about Arachne really quick. Because of her passive, Predator, you don't need them to be at any particular given amount of health. She is the epitome of the less health they have, the closer to the tower you can afford to gank them. The closer to their tower you can afford to gank them because of this. If they're really high on health but they're at your tower line, that's still potentially a good gank, because you can wear them down and then Predator kicks in and now you're doing more and more damage. This is more true with the mid game. By late game you're not ganking anyone in a technical sense anymore. Still a bit of a problem in the early game, but it can still be quite impactful even in the early game. But Camazotz is all sustain. He is a sustain jungler. He wins jungling. This is actually, incidentally, why a lot of people play him in solo, is because of his sustain. But he makes for a very interesting jungling experience in that he doesn't jungle... He's not trying to outpace the opposition. He's trying to outlast it. His odd way of jungling is he doesn't need to gank faster or more often. He doesn't need to farm faster. He just needs to last longer. That's it. Using a combination of his Essence Drinker and his various forms of self-heal, he's really just looking to sort of outstay the opposition and outlevel them that way. Whether or not this works really depends upon how good you are with Camazotz and how good the enemy assassin is. It's very skill-based. But that is... I will shout out Camazotz as an interesting example of someone who's not particularly good at jungling in a conventional sense. I do personally prefer him in the solo lane. I know a lot of other people do. And that's a large part of the reason why, is because he is very counterintuitive in terms of jungling. If you are a jungler main, or if you are looking to become a jungler main, Camazotz makes for an excellent exercise in your real mastery of jungling. Okay, because if you can consistently win with a jungling Camazotz, you really understand sustain, you really understand jungling, you really understand the role. And if you want to achieve a better understanding of the role, he makes for a great character to practice with. Alright, because again, he is not trying to outpace the enemy, he's not trying to outgank the enemy, he's not trying to outfarm the enemy, he is trying to outlast the enemy, and it's just such an interesting juxtaposition from what you normally want as a jungler. It's fascinating. A Willish actually is one of those that just needs them to be past halfway, and their health doesn't matter, simply because of initiative. That 30% is not very impactful in the early game, but the closer you get to mid-game, that hits harder and harder. So, yeah, she doesn't so much care about their health. She's another one of those that just really wants the distance. Bastet recently has changed. She's got this new Huntress of Bast ability, which creates a giant cat that basically pulls a Fenrir ult, essentially. With this, she no longer cares about how far up the enemy is. Before, she used to just want them to be halfway up and at okay-ish levels of health, because she dealt pretty good damage. She had her pounce. With judicious use of Ensnaring Claw, you could even reasonably gank them under tower if they were low enough on health. But the Huntress of Bast just makes this even better, honestly. And I haven't jungled with her with the new ult, but from what I've seen of it and what I've experienced of it in Assault, yeah, she's really not going to care about where they're positioned, honestly. As long as they're at least approximately halfway dead. She'll be able to get a clean gank on them. Loki is interesting where if you have his ult, he doesn't care. If you don't have his ult, he wants them the usual scenario of past halfway up, about halfway dead. Hunbots, we already had a pretty heavy amount of conversation about him. Pele is a faster Camazotz, basically. She is looking to kind of outlast the enemy, but not to quite as an extreme degree as Camazotz. But she does run faster, she does move faster. The only junglers that can consistently outpace her are Thanatos and Mercury. I believe, let me double check my Ratatoskr, I keep forgetting he's fast with his Acorn. Daji, again, she's one of those ones that just wants the space. The health itself doesn't really matter because she inflicts so much bleeding and burn that she just really needs the space for them to bleed out. And then that's all she needs. Fenrir is just like was now in a similar situation to Bastet. He's always had Ragnarok. If the enemy is past halfway up the field to the point where you can ult them under tower, their health doesn't matter. If they're close to their tower, ironically, he has the inverse. If they're close to their tower, he wants them to be past halfway dead. So he's got this really weird inverse thing. Bastet probably will work very similarly with her Huntress of Bast now, but yeah, it's this really weird flip of the usual conditions of ganking. Now, I actually jungled first with Fenrir. This is actually why he's got so many worshippers. And this actually messed up my ability to judge a good gank. For my next 2 assassins, I had a really hard time getting successful ganks. And even every once in a while, I'll look at a gank. This is actually part of the reason why I like Thanatos, is because Thanatos doesn't care either. But because I got into the habit of understanding this concept that if they're close to my tower, it doesn't matter what their health is, and if they're close to their tower, they need to be about halfway dead. That's not the usual rule, but I developed the habit of thinking that way with Fenrir, and it really messed me up that way. So if you are looking to become a jungler main, you've not jungled extensively, don't start with Fenrir. Do Fenrir second or third when you understand the usual conditions of a good gank. Because Fenrir's conditions for a good gank are the reverse of the usual. Okay? Don't make my mistake. He was also my second character that I got to Diamond, so I got Kepri to Diamond first, then I went for Fenrir because I wanted a change of pace, so I was still very new to the game at that point. But it just totally messed up my ability to judge a good gank for a decent bit of time there. Susano, he hits really hard, but he doesn't have a really excellent entry ult like these two do. Basically, as long as they're past halfway dead, it doesn't matter. But if they're not past halfway dead, he needs them to be the usual rules. He needs them to be either past halfway up or about halfway dead. Tsukiyomi, same condition. Really. I mean, and again, keep in mind these are guidelines, not hard and fast rules. As the past 2 matches, I hope, have identified for you, situations change so quickly with the jungler role that you really never know specifically what you could or could not get away with. There were some ganks in the last match that I didn't get away with that I thought I could, and there were ganks that I didn't think I was going to be able to get away with, but I did. And you're always going to have situations like that as a jungler. And while the rules I've been talking about so far, namely that the enemy should be either halfway up or halfway dead, those are just guidelines. And it really does depend on how far ahead you are than the enemy. It depends on who's in that lane with you. It depends on how far away the enemy jungler is, if you know that information. It depends on all these conditions. And it's something you'll have to kind of get a feel for. I can explain this till I'm blue in the face, but ultimately it's something you develop a feeling for, and this is the real problem here. You have to develop that feeling of what makes a good gank for each and every, well, not each and every, but for most assassins, you do need to develop that individually. As I was just talking about, Thanatos and Thor have pretty similar conditions for a good gank, so there, you know, if you're really good with Thanatos, you would probably really enjoy jungling with Thor. Again, to make the same comparison between Susano and Tsukiyomi, they have similar conditions for what qualifies as a good gank. So if you're good with one, you'd probably really enjoy the other one. but they aren't necessarily as translatable into a Thanatos main, for instance, who might have some trouble with them because there are different conditions for what they qualify as a good gank versus what Thanatos qualifies as a good gank. So it's something you are just going to have to play with that character consistently, whichever one you choose, consistently play with them, and just understand with to a gut instinct level what is and is not a good gank for that particular character. But that's all I've really got to say about Conquest for Jungle. We've talked about ganking, we've talked about the chaos of the role, we've talked about the basics of the group fight, which is please prioritize the squishies, don't go for the tanks, to put it as succinctly as possible. The Conquest is really where the assassin thrives, and I'm going to show that in the next few episodes with other game modes where assassins sometimes have a really hard time, and I'll explain why for each of those modes individually as we come to them. But in the meantime, thank you all very much for joining me. If you liked this, please like and subscribe. If you didn't, please ignore me. And if you have any comments, questions, concerns, ideas, suggestions, or requests, please leave them down in the comment section below. And thank you all very much for joining me. Have a great 24 hours.